All right, everybody. So I'm here, Harley Centner, with my guest today, Eric Benaim.
Hey, Harley, how are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great, thank you, and thank you as well for being here. So Eric has a really interesting story. His life goes through many cities and is very unique in terms of a real estate professional. And I don't want to tell his life story. So Eric, could you please give us a little bit of an introduction to your life? Like, tell us your origin story.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Power Players Podcast with your host, Harley Centner.
Sure. So I'm born and raised in Queens, New York. Dropped out of high school. Wasn't really a good kid as a teenager, and I got into New York City nightlife and rave parties. I started throwing rave parties probably back in like '96. So from like '96 to 2000, I was just a party promoter in New York, and then my dad had immigrated here from Israel in 1967, and he was like in the gas station business. And then he had owned like a couple of little properties also. And then in 2001, after 9/11, nobody wanted to party anymore. My dad told me he wanted to get your real estate license. I got my real estate license, not really liking what I was doing. So I started doing real estate like in early 2022. So about 2002, not 2022. I started doing real estate at early 2002, really hating it. I thought I was going to do it for like a year, maybe 2 years, and then go back to doing parties. And that actually wasn't the case. So I started off as like a rental agent in New York, focusing just all over Manhattan. And I was all over the place. And then I was in maybe like 2 different companies. Then I went to like a third. And in that third company, I joined 2 friends of mine who were working there already. We formed like a team, and we were focusing on new development sales. And that's kind of like where my love for real estate started. And I started doing a lot of, new development sales. This is probably in like 2004-ish. And then 2005, I was in a neighborhood called Long Island City, which was at the time, it was like a desolate, like waterfront neighborhood in New York, part of Queens. And I was there for a party actually, and my friend, it was like a day party, and my friends didn't show up, so I decided to leave and walk around this area, and I saw this building that had, it was like an industrial building that had signage that condos were coming there soon. I called, there was no cell phone cameras back then. And so I called my answering machine at home and just read myself the information from the sign. And I decided, we also didn't have Zillow or anything like that back then either. So it was basically Craigslist. And so decided to put up a Craigslist ad advertising this one like building that I thought was going to, I guess, to be something. Maybe I get some clients out of it. I put one ad up on Craigslist, and my inbox started flooding with, people who were interested. And then the building opened up on April 1st of 2006. April 1st, April 2nd, 2006. I ended up selling like 18 apartments in that one building. At the time, I was focused on Manhattan. I was predominantly focused on Riverside Boulevard, in an area called Trump Place, which is like on the West Side Highway. Trump built all these, like, I guess 6 or 7 buildings over there. So that was kind of like my niche. But then when I sold these 18 apartments, I realized no brokers were focusing on Long Island City. Let me just try to make this my market. And so I decided to like abandon my Manhattan business, focus solely on Long Island City, and then my career basically took off from then. So I started doing a lot of sales as an agent. 2008, I decided to leave the company I was with and form my own company. That company's called Modern Spaces. So I've been around for, I guess, 17 and a half years now. At the time, it was a company, it was a brokerage, so it was specifically focused. At the time, the mission was to specifically focus on Long Island City. We've since grown, so we're in pretty much throughout Western Queens and Jersey City, but we conduct business throughout Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Jersey. We have about 100 agents, 5 offices. We do about $1 billion a year in transactions. And then we also work with developers. So this is kind of like a majority of our business is doing new development marketing. So we work with a lot of developers in planning their projects. So developers usually come to us and be like, "Hey, Eric, I'm buying this site. It's 100,000 or 500,000 square feet or whatever. What do we do here?" We help them assemble their team. So we basically, based on like what a business plan they'll go for, we'll say, "Hey, if it's a rental building, this is how many units to do. This is the unit size, layouts, where to position them, who our target demographic is going to be." How to program the amenities, basically everything from A to Z. So we help them with all that planning. And then once the building is built, we either, if it's a rental, we'll lease it. If it's a condo, we'll sell it. We do all the marketing and the branding and basically everything from A to Z. And I guess in 17 years, we've done over 15 million square feet of planning, over 10 billion in transactions. We've basically played a part in almost every single project in that neighborhood, but we're in other neighborhoods throughout Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Jersey City, and so we've grown obviously. And then I do other things also. I'm here in Miami. I started focusing on a lot of stuff in Miami over the last 2 years, just buying stuff, specifically in Wynwood, and yeah.
Awesome. So it seems like you had an interesting story where you diverted your path, right? Because as they say, the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes it takes a little bit of time to find your path, and maybe the most popular path, right? Everyone wants to work in a place like Manhattan, right, with the glamour and the speed. Or in Miami, everyone wants to work down in Brickell or South Beach or all these areas that are hot, right? But sometimes the underlooked areas or business markets are actually the most appealing to the ones that are really trying to capture a piece of the market or do something different. So, Eric, I would love to hear a little bit more about growing up in New York, your family life, maybe before you got into the business. So, you were throwing raves in New York, and also did you throw raves down here too?
No, just I used to come here for raves, but
Okay.
I came here for back then it was called the Winter Music Conference. Now it's
Of
Miami
course.
Music Week.
Yeah, Winter Music Conference.
But yeah, I used to come for that. But no, when I was throwing parties, it was basically in New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were throwing parties in New York. How old were you when you threw your first party?
I was like 16 years old.
16 years old. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a very entrepreneurial move at 16. I'm sure it was a great experience. Were your parents happy with that?
They weren't really happy with it, and I think once they saw I was making money doing it, they were just more accepted of it. Not that it was just whatever. And then at one point, my parents were actually working the events with me.
Wow.
So, yeah, they were kind of like. Because I was doing these events and thousands of people. We had the biggest one was maybe 11,000 people, and so my mom would be at the ticket booth selling tickets, and my dad would basically because I was a really scrawny little kid back then, and so my dad would basically manage the security and made sure I always had security around me.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you can't beat them, join them, right?
Yeah.
So if your kids decide to throw raves in New York or Miami, you can always work the ticket counter.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. So you were throwing raves and you threw one that had as many as 11,000 people?
Yeah.
That is incredible,
Yeah.
really. So do you have any siblings growing up?
Yeah, I have 3 siblings. Everyone's doing their own thing. No one's really in real estate,
Okay.
but they're in fashion, makeup artist, law enforcement.
And I'm going to just take a shot and say I think you might be the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
I knew it.
40, yeah.
Okay.
I'm 47.
I just had a feeling based on, they say that birth order affects personality, right? And not to toot my own horn, but I'm also the oldest in my family, right?
Uh-huh.
And they say that the eldest sibling has certain traits, and some of those traits are independence, drive, and they tend to be more serious. Whereas the younger siblings, especially the middle sibling, is sometimes like the family comedian, right? I know my younger brother is definitely a funny person, so I don't know if I got as much of that. I'm funny sometimes, but I think the drive, independence, and more serious nature is an older sibling thing. But that's really cool. So you grew up with your parents, and they started out, they did not really support it, and then they sort of grew to see that it was a good thing, that you were, even making money from it, and then they decided to get onto your team and help you even throw these raves. So who introduced you to the rave scene? How did that even start?
The rave scene. I mentioned I dropped out of high school. I was a bad kid.
Where were you in high school?
I went to a lot of different schools.
Okay.
And so unfortunately, I just, didn't really do good in school. Wasn't really my thing. And so I dropped out in like 10th grade. And I got a job at a TCBY, which was like a frozen yogurt place back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this girl who worked a few doors down at this dance shop, and she would come in every day for like milkshakes. And one day she came and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to this party this week. You should go." And I didn't even know what the hell it was.
Oh, really?
And it was like a flyer for like a rave. And I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And so me and a friend of mine from TCBY decided to go. And we were kind of like blown away. We were introduced to the music back then, which was like techno and house.
Techno and house.
And we were blown away, and we started going. So it was at were these parties back in the 90s, like NASA parties at Club Shelter, which was like, if you've ever seen the movie Kids, in the movie Kids, they go to this party called NASA. So it was like a NASA party type thing, and I got hooked on the scene. And then probably after like a year or so, wanted to do my own, and that's kind of like how it started.
Cool.
Yeah.
So are you familiar with any of the old school ravers, like DJ Odie or?
Yeah.
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 You know about them, so
yeah.
Okay. So you're plugged in. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So that's a fascinating little snapshot as well. Into the history of music up there. That is, and it's been all over the country. It's changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
So you decided to start throwing raves, right? So that was your entry into entrepreneurial things, or did you do other things?
I think there's a lot of similarities. I think between like throwing a rave and like actually real estate. It was always about like finding a location.
Mm-hmm.
So I was constantly like scouting to find new locations. So that's where I guess I got that experience from. And then once you find a location, you have to negotiate a lease to lease the space for an event.
Short term.
Short term, right? So it was like a day, maybe sometimes 2 days if it was like a lot of setup. So you're negotiating that, and then booking the talent, and doing the marketing and stuff like that. And that's kind of like, I guess, where that skill came from.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of similarities.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I don't think that many people really have thought about that, but I can see how they're very connected, in fact.
Yeah.
So you got into real estate from throwing raves first, and so let's talk now a little bit more about getting into real estate, right? So you said your first job in real estate. How did that kind of start? How did you get into that business?
So I got my license. I worked for a company back then. It was called Ardor, which is not around anymore. It was probably like a 200-person shop, I would think. It was a rental shop. And I was there for probably like 6 months, really just like hustling, didn't really make much money, maybe a rental or two here and there. And in the beginning, it's kind of like, I didn't think it was for me. And you're calling up landlords or trying to get clients off of Craigslist back then or things like this. Then I decided to get into, to go to a bigger company. I thought I would get more value by going into a bigger company. So I went to a company called City Habitats, which is also no longer around. They got bought out by Corcoran, so they merged with Corcoran. City Habitats at the time was probably like the largest rental shop in New York City, they had maybe like 2,000 agents. They had, I don't know, 20 or 30 offices. So I kind of really cut my teeth with city habitats. I think my first year, so I was at 6 months with barter, and then my first year in real estate, I think I made like, I want to say $28,000, something around those lines. And just I was all over the place. I didn't have a niche or anything. I was showing apartments on the Upper East Side, showing apartments in the Lower East Side, showing apartments in Hell's Kitchen, just showing apartments like everywhere, basically. And then after about a year or so at City Habitats, I injured my leg, or my foot. I had to get surgery, so I was out of commission for a couple months. And I had two friends who were in real estate, so I was just sending them any leads I got while I was out of commission. And they were working at a company, it was a startup at the time called Nest Seekers, which is kind of like a big company now. And so when I was back on my feet, I decided to go work with them at Nest Seekers, and we formed a team, and basically we went off from there.
Uh-huh. And how old were you when you went to Nest Seekers?
I was probably 24.
24?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and if I remember right, Nest Seekers is Ryan Serhant's company, right? That's where he
started out. So Ryan Serhant started at Nest Seekers too, yeah.
Yeah, and then, okay, so yeah, Nest Seekers is a very big firm. I believe they have an office down in downtown Miami as well, or I know they used to.
I think they have a couple offices. I think maybe one or two offices over here. And then they have one in downtown Miami, and they might have another one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I could have sworn walking past their office in downtown on Biscayne. But, sometimes my memory is not exactly true, but I believe they do. But anyway, a question popped into my head, and I really had to ask you. I would love to hear what's some of the craziest stories you had in the rave scene. I want to go back to that.
Oh, okay. In the rave scene, craziest stories? I mean, there were a lot of crazy stories. Probably some that's not suitable for a podcast.
Oh, even better.
But, I mean, there was no really internet back then, or there was very little. There was, but very little bit of it. And so we would print out these expensive, beautiful, like sometimes multi-page brochures. And so a lot of times we'd travel. I would sometimes go to like 3 or 4 different states in a day.
Oh, yeah? Like where? Northeast?
Yeah. So I would be like, I could be maybe at one party in New York, and then I'm going somewhere in maybe Jersey, and then I'll go to like Philly, and then maybe on the way back I stop by Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And it's just constantly handing out flyers and just hitting as many parties as you can for that. But yeah, there's probably a lot of stories that's not appropriate for the podcast.
Oh, no. Okay. So you traveled all around. I'm going to get it out. I'm going to get some stories out here.
Okay.
So you traveled all around to different cities to bring people to the parties that you're
that's how. Right? Yeah, because right now it's easy. You probably just create a social media following and post a lot on social media, create a website with SEO. I mean, we didn't really have that back then. Back then, there were AOL chat rooms.
Okay.
So you would join the different chat rooms and just kind of like mention it on the chat rooms a lot. And then or print these flyers and then go to all the record shops in New York and leave them at the record shops and go to different parties and just promote them at the parties and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it really sounds like, when you hear about all these different ways that people do business, especially like in the rave scene, there's so many similarities, right? Because business in general, right? It's just you have a product or service and you have to find the people that want the product or service. How do you get that to them? And then obviously at the rate that they're looking for, right? Sometimes you have to travel to different cities. Sometimes you have to make it appealing, right? With advertising, marketing yourself. So there's a lot there. It's kind of like a lot of commonality between all of them.
Yeah. It definitely taught me how to be a promoter. I mean, I was basically a promoter, but constantly talking to people about the events. I remember I was on college radio stations or little documentaries and just constantly trying to get the word out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can you tell me a time that you had to kind of get yourself out of like a predicament when you were in that phase of your life throwing parties?
Yeah. So a good one is that party I mentioned that was like 11,000 people.
Yeah.
So the venue actually only held like 5 or 6,000 people, and it was a party on Martin Luther King Day, and we had a line that was probably maybe 7 or 8 people thick, or wide, and it wrapped around an entire block, and the back of the line was basically where the front of the line was.
Wow.
And that's how like big it was. And so we really promoted the party like crazy. It was a popular, everybody, it was like the talk of like the scene at the time. And we were like, all right, we have all these people. We obviously can't fit all these people. We got to do something about this. A few blocks away, there was another guy who was doing a competing rave, and he had nobody show up to his. And so I had to go to his venue and cut a deal with them, basically, where we'll send some of our DJs after they spin at our party to over there, and we basically like redirected a lot of the people. So we were basically managing 2 different events. Technically,
Okay.
It was the same event, but in 2 different venues, like a couple blocks away from each other. And so that's how we had like about the 11,000 people that we had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we had a venue that we over promoted the event, and the venue couldn't fit all the people.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just cut a deal with another venue a few blocks away and just tried to manage 2 different events at once.
And was this in Long Island City?
No, this was in Jamaica, Queens.
Jamaica, Queens.
Yeah.
Okay. That's JFK Airport.
Not too far from JFK Airport, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So let's go back into the real estate side of things, right? So right now you are active in real estate in New York and
Yeah.
Florida, specifically Miami, and New York capital and Florida opportunities, right? Seems to be the trend these days, and lots of things going on here. So tell me a little bit about what you've been doing, in the past couple of years and things that you're working on.
Sure. So I've been, I guess, New York City. Running real estate as a landlord in New York City has been tough. I've owned some properties in New York, and just being a landlord, unless you're like a related or one of these giant guys, it's not really easy for a regular like real estate operator in New York. The laws have changed over the last several years, where the laws are basically against the landlord, and so I thought, one thing I learned from COVID is not to have all your eggs in one basket and to diversify. And so I decided to look into Miami. I've always kind of like had an eye on Miami, and specifically Wynwood. And Wynwood is a market that I see has a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity. It reminds me of Williamsburg in Brooklyn, New York, probably like 10, 15 years ago. And so started selling some properties in New York, doing a 1031, buying some properties in Wynwood, and I guess trying to grow our Wynwood portfolio. So we have almost an entire block now in Wynwood, and I just see there's a lot of upside in Wynwood specifically. There's a lot of construction. I know there's been some delays in some projects, but I think a lot of that is really mostly due to rates and capital not being as free as over the last couple of years. But now with rates going down, and I think the economy getting a little better, a lot of those projects I am starting to see are starting to get their construction loans and will be moving forward. So yeah, I do see like Wynwood's a market that we like, and I'll probably make some more investments over there.
Yeah, no, Wynwood's a great area, right? I remember when I first came down, and you see all these hot areas, and Wynwood is definitely on top of the list. It's a fun place to party. There's some of my favorite places to hang out, are in Wynwood too. I remember when I went to Smorgasburg for the first time down there. That was fun, and yeah, it definitely has like a sort of New York style feel over there, and it's busy. It's very busy. I was there a week ago, and I just remember so many crowds of people, and that's good, right? It's good for many different reasons. And if you are ever in Wynwood, I would probably say, I guarantee, if you're walking through Wynwood, you're going to pass by some of Eric's properties, right? They're off of near
So on North Miami Avenue.
North Miami Avenue.
On 23rd and 24th. So we're right basically across the street from Oasis. And funny you mentioned Smorgasburg. So like when Williamsburg, Brooklyn was like kind of like starting to get a little popular, and developers were starting to develop in Williamsburg. There's one project in Williamsburg called The Edge, which was on the waterfront. It was like the first like major development to come to Williamsburg. And so what they did to attract people is they brought in Smorgasburg.
No way.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
they brought Smorgasburg in their empty lot next door, which was like the phase 2 of the project.
Okay.
And so Smorgasburg started bringing in all the people, and people were like, oh, what is this neighborhood? That's kind of like what made me discover like Williamsburg as well back then. And so from that moment, Williamsburg started growing, and now it's like one of the most popular neighborhoods in the world, Williamsburg. And so it's funny that when I saw Smorgasburg in Wynwood, it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, no, it's a great place, so you get to try all these different kinds of foods, right? So if you are going to Wynwood, going to Smorgasburg, they have, how would I describe Smorgasburg, right? Because they have it in Brooklyn and in Miami and, gosh, maybe somewhere else, but I don't know, right? It's a bunch of independent food vendors.
Yeah, it's kind of like a flea market for food. So it's the same
Flea
operators
market.
who do Brooklyn Flea, which is like a famous flea market in
Yeah.
New York. And so the same operators who do Brooklyn Flea, they started Smorgasburg, and it's basically just a bunch of, I don't know how big it is over here. I would think at least 50 or 60 operators. But it's an open air, it's kind of like an open air food hall. And it's only on the weekends, I believe, over here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe it's only on the weekends. But you can walk past it any time of the week and see what's up and make a plan to go there. It's pretty cool. I remember, I think I was 18 or 19 the first time I went to Smorgasburg, right? Because I grew up in New York. I was at NYU for a little while, and I heard about Smorgasburg because so I love Asian food, right? So I found out that there was this place that has tons of like independent Asian stalls. They're serving cool, unique food. So I went there, and I was not disappointed. Growing up, I did not spend that much time in Brooklyn. As I'm from Long Island, right? So we kind of hung out maybe in Queens, or further out on Long Island, or sometimes Manhattan if there was a reason to go there. Maybe with family or to see a show or to meet, family friends out there. But generally speaking, Brooklyn was like, aside from Staten Island, we weren't going to Brooklyn all the time. But when I got to check it out, I was just really impressed with what they did. I tried some cool Japanese thing. It was like a dessert, that I remember eating while watching the view of New York City. It was super cool. So Smorgasburg, yes, go check it out. It's in Wynwood. Wynwood has changed a lot, right? And, so Williamsburg, right, now people know about it. They think it's this hot area. It's very expensive, I think more than Manhattan. But there was a time, I saw recently, like, there was a musician, a very famous musician, talking about how he grew up in the rough streets of Williamsburg.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And that the taxi cabs wouldn't even bring you across the bridge over there because it was so dangerous. So, you got to be a tough person to live in Williamsburg. But now it's a very nice area, right?
Now it's a
changed.
super nice area. So now, like, I had an office in Williamsburg for a couple of years. We were probably there too early when we were there. We were there, I think, in 2010. And I think we just ended up closing in 2012. But the same street that our office was on, which we were on North 6th and Kent, which is basically like the street that everybody gets off the subway to walk towards the waterfront. And then Kent is like basically the waterfront. And that street right now, on the block where our office was, there's an Hermes, there's a Chanel, and there's Bottega Veneta. There's I think a Microsoft store. So there's like a lot of like high-end like luxury things over there, which says something. And I kind of feel like Wynwood will probably not have that, but I think because we have the design district, but I think Wynwood will probably have like a mid-level tier like brands.
Like what kind of brands do you think?
Like maybe like a Club Monaco or like an All Saints or like those kinds of brands. I can see them going to Wynwood, whereas in Design District, it's like the Chanels and Hermes and Gucci's and stuff like that. And in Design District, they're basically like oversubscribed on like retail. There's not enough space for all the brands over there.
Design District.
Design District.
Right.
And so obviously a lot of the mid-level brands will want to get some exposure to people shopping in the Design District. Design District being 5-minute car ride from Wynwood, maybe a 15-minute walk. If those, I mean, I actually walk it. I could walk from Design District to
Yeah,
Wynwood.
sure. It's not so far.
Not so far. So I kind of see those. I could see like a mid-tier brands wanting to go to Wynwood, whereas maybe like a little bit of a lower tier brand is in Midtown. You have like Ross's and Targets and stuff like that.
Burlington.
Burlington,
Yeah.
right? So you have those brands in Midtown. High end is Design District, so I could see mid level being in the Wynwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really fascinating, and I agree with that assessment. You know, Design District is definitely very flashy, very high end, and it's where you go when you basically just want to hand them your wallet and say, I want this, this, and that. It's really cool, really nice area. Also, some good dining options in Design District as well. But yeah, no, Wynwood, Design District, and Midtown are all a little bit different, but all within walking distance.
Yeah.
They are actually opening up, not quite in Woodwood. I guess it would be more Edgewater, but, you know, possibly walking distance. They have a new Whole Foods, right?
Yep.
You know, I think that's Crescent Heights. That's Russell Galbit's project. And then on the lobby, the first floor, they're putting in a Whole Foods there, which is good because I'm sure, I believe that Wynwood itself may only have like one supermarket. It's that one 24-hour supermarket, you know, and then other than that, I don't think they have anything.
They have nothing. There's still a lot of opportunity if you have a business to come into Wynwood. There's no grocery stores, really. There's no like pharmacies or anything like that. There's a lot of restaurants and a lot of good restaurants. There's like, you know, Pastis and a bunch of others that are over there. Novella Cafe, which is probably my favorite. But there's not that many like service-oriented like supermarkets and places like that, which is basically similar to what Williamsburg was and also what Long Island City was. So both, I mean, when I first moved into Long Island City, I moved into Long Island City like 18 years ago. It was desolate. There was nothing there. It was kind of like maybe Wynwood years ago, and I just have to take the train to the subway. I have to take the subway to Manhattan just to go to a pharmacy or to get grocery shopping. And so, but now, like, one of my tenants owns like a smoke shop, and he's kind of like converted the smoke shop to like a bodega, because he's like, Eric, a lot of the residents now, a lot more residents are coming here, and they want sandwiches or milk or eggs or whatever it is that they want. So he's like, he basically converted the smoke shop into like a bodega, little mini grocery store, because he's basically answering what his clientele's changing, and he's trying to like appeal to them.
This is in Wynwood, right?
This is in Wynwood, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I think I've actually, I've definitely walked past there. I think I've been there, and that's awesome. Yeah, that it's changed like that, and it's great to see how business owners, they see like that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And then they say, wait a minute, okay, I had a smoke shop, but I see my customers are asking for sandwiches and, you know, pharmacy items and, you know, gum or snacks, stuff like this, right? So they said, well, I can provide that, right? They're already coming to me. They already trust me, and they live nearby. So then they start to, you know, take advantage and help out in different ways. It's really cool. It's nice to see the neighborhood growing in that way with business owners,
Yeah.
you know, doing the right thing and, you know, just seizing the day. That's great. So like, what's your view, you know, on the Miami market? Like, what do you see? Do you see more people from New York coming in? I know, you know, there's always the sense where whenever there's an election coming up right in New York, it's going to tell whether people are going to stick around or they're going to all come to Florida, or maybe those fears are overblown. We don't know.
I don't know. I kind of feel there's an election going on right now in New York, where we might have a new mayor in a few weeks, and so depending on who that mayor is, there is talks of like people like leaving. I just read an article today. A lot of New Yorkers or people who live in the city are going to Westchester,
Okay.
but there are probably going to be New Yorkers, I'm assuming, that come to Miami or Florida. I mean, we saw it in COVID. I do see as politics changes in New York, I do see a lot of people just moving out here. Surprisingly, in the last 2 years or 3 years, I've probably been here like 30 times now. I've met more New Yorkers in Miami than I met actually Miami like natives.
Yeah, the sixth borough, right?
Yeah, so
Sixth borough down
I'm
here.
surprised at how many I met. Yeah.
Yeah, no, New York is New Yorkers love Miami, and Miamians, well, they like New Yorkers if they're nice, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, Miami is just an excellent place. It's got so much to offer, and it makes sense why people would want to live here, right? The weather is amazing year round.
Yep.
Vibrant business scene, diverse. It's got a lot of great things going for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think is going to happen, you know, in the next couple years, say, to Wynwood or the hotspots in Miami, real estate wise, that is?
I know there's a lot of inventory right now with regards to like the condo market, for example. I think there's going to be a little bit of a correction, and then the correction is probably going to come at the same time with regards to condos, and the correction is going to come around the same time as the rates go down. So that'll kind of like be a good thing, and it'll probably, I would think it'd probably take like a couple of years for the inventory right now to be absorbed. At the same time, we are seeing a lot of businesses coming in from out of town. You probably saw the news. I guess it was like a month or two ago. Playboy's now moving their offices from LA to Miami. I see a lot more. I think a lot more of that's going to happen. Amazon is moving into Wynwood. They're taking up like 75,000 square feet at Wynwood Plaza. I think they'll probably grow their footprint. So I see a lot more like those tech kind of companies and companies coming in from other states, either opening up branches in Miami because Miami's been such a hot spot, or just relocating like Playboy did, come to Miami, and that'll kind of like spur more housing, more retail, etc.
Right, because where Playboy goes, you know, all the different companies want to come.
Yeah.
It's so yeah, I actually did hear that Playboy has been negotiating with local government to try to help fund them, right? What a lot of people don't realize off the bat is that when these big companies move into a city, they like to petition the government to help fund them, right? Because they believe, in their perspective, that they're providing a positive, right? It's like there's a word for it in economics I can't remember, but like when it's like a spillover effect. So, you know, when one big business comes in, you have opportunity, jobs, you have income coming in, you have more tax revenue. So they like to ask the city to help support that in return. So, yeah, there's a lot of businesses moving into Miami, absolutely. Some of them are relocating. Also, some of them want to access the Latin market, the Latin American market. You know, you hear people talk about Miami is the capital of Latin America, and gosh, I think there is some point to that. You know, it's right there. In fact, it's closer to fly from Miami to Colombia than it is to fly from Miami to New York.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like a 2-hour flight. It's super quick. So quick access to Latin America for sure. So it really makes Miami an interesting hub of activity. So
yeah, no, I can't agree more.
Yeah, and so what are some of your plans right now? Do you are you looking to continue investing down here? Are there other cities like Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, or maybe the West Coast? Have you explored?
West Coast probably not much. Kind of like focusing right now on Miami specifically, and New York, and then I mean maybe Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach later on. But right now it's just basically two markets I know very well are New York and Miami.
Okay.
And so that's kind of like what I feel comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like where my focus is.
So long Miami,
yeah.
Love it. Okay, so yeah. Let me see. I'm gonna pause the podcast here. Yeah, I had a couple more questions. I want to make sure that I get them all out here. We're just about close to the end. I know you got to run. I'm sure. So.
I asked Christina for your number. She's like, why? And then I'm going to send her a picture.
Okay. I was gonna do the same. Yeah, that's great. All right. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I have another question.
Sorry.
You're good.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Okay. So after a brief intermission, we're back. So I wanted to ask you, Eric. So you've been in the industry for a while. I'm sure you've gained a lot of wisdom through just being in the game and meeting different people and working on some really cool projects. So I'd like to ask if you had somebody who was just getting started in the real estate game, or maybe the Rave game. It depends on what you'd like to discuss. What kind of advice would you give them starting out?
I guess my advice would be focus on one thing. I mean, you said riches in the niches.
Okay.
And I'm a strong believer in that. When you're all over the place, it's just like hard to focus on one thing. So if you're just starting out, I think once you establish yourself, then you can like branch out and do a bunch of different things. But if you're just starting out, I would have a niche, focus on that, and just continue like going at it and hammering it until you succeed. Always, I mean, I never turn down a meeting, even to today. I mean, I've been in the business for 24 years. Random people might call me and be like, "Hey, you want to get together? I have an idea for something." I'm always open to like listening to people and hearing what they have to say because you never know what opportunities might come. So constantly meeting with people and putting yourself out there, and then just focusing on like one thing. So if you're going to be a real estate agent, focus on one, maybe two neighborhoods, or one or two areas, right? And let that be your thing and own it.
What are some red flags to look out for? Like if you're first getting started, you know?
Red flags?
Yeah, like what are some things that maybe they should be aware of when starting out to try to avoid?
Don't be shy to ask people to be clear. So if you're working with somebody, whether a company or whatever, like lay everything out in the front, up front. So know if you're a real estate agent, if you're getting into as a real estate broker agent, you're working with a company, you should know everything up front, what their policies are, what they're covering, expenses, anything like that. If you're getting into buying something and you're doing that part of the real estate, like I guess maybe buying properties and flipping them or buying them as like a landlord or whatever, don't skimp out on attorneys. I know Florida is not really an attorney state. New York is an attorney state, and so in Florida, I think they have like forms over here that you can use instead of using an attorney, and a lot of people do prefer using those forms. I'm the opposite. I like using an attorney. So if you're buying something, you want to make sure you're always protected, and don't skimp out. Get an attorney, and don't try to find the cheapest attorney. Try to find a good attorney, and also get a good accountant. But if you're starting out, I guess just things to look out for is, listen, there's really good people in the industry, but unfortunately, there's a lot of like bad people in the industry too. So knowing who you're doing business with is really important. My dad used to say, in real estate, it's location, 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 but it's also reputation, reputation, reputation. So having a good reputation is really important. And so I try to work with somebody who has a good reputation and always try to make sure you have a good reputation.
I think that's great advice. The reputation is super important in a relationship-based industry that you need to watch out for your name, right? I mean, not everyone will, and I think part of the game is also making sure that you avoid, getting entangled with people where that's not important to them. So
correct.
So you need to make sure that you're doing right by the people, and what you promise is what you deliver, and you do your best just to do right by the people you are involved with. So I just wanted to end it here and ask you, what kind of things are you working on? And if somebody from the audience is interested in contacting you, how can they reach you?
So right now, working on, we're growing modern spaces in New York exploring modern spaces in Miami. At the same time, in Miami, working on a small office development in Wynwood. We just bought a lot not too long ago. I'm still looking to develop that into a little office building. That's kind of like that's basically kind of like what I'm working with. And then what was the other question?
Just how they can reach you.
Oh, and how you reach me? I mean, I'm on Instagram at Eric Benaim. On LinkedIn, Eric Benaim on LinkedIn, or you can email me, eric@modernspaces.com.
Awesome. So if you're looking to throw a rave or, invest in real estate, Eric's your man. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you. Had fun.
Awesome.
Thank
okay.
you. Cool.